Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Behind the Practice, where we highlight people, products, and processes serving the dental community. And this podcast is brought to you by DentiMax. And I am your host, Alicia Dieujuste. And today we have on the darling Laura Weber, who is the founder and lead consultant at LW Excellence in Dental Management. Woo!
Yes,
Sounds amazing.
Hi, Alicia. Thank you,
girlfriend.
my friend. I love this.
How are you?
Excited. I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you on. Today we're talking about mastering the patient experience. And who better to talk about that than someone who has lived that for what, like 25 years now? Tell us how you got into dental. Give us your origin story.
Ooh, the origin story is embarrassing enough, but my mom at the time found help wanted ad in the newspaper. It was right after high school, or, just about to be done with high school. And she said,
in the classifieds.
Yes, in a newspaper. And it was for a hygiene assistant. And don't ask me why she felt that was going to be the good position for me. I have no idea. But in my mind, I thought to myself, there's no way, Mom, I'm cleaning people's teeth. Well, how would I know? I have no idea.
Right.
And so my first reaction was, you're out of your mind. I'm not doing that.
That's great.
I don't know why I went anyway. I went for my interview, got hired.
Do what your parents say.
They were, it was interesting because obviously as soon as you get there and you're doing the interview and the doctor's clarifying the role. And so I'm like, oh, thank God,
thank God. I don't have to clean teeth.
I'm not cleaning teeth. A teenager just out of high school cleaning teeth doesn't know anything about dentistry,
Right.
I didn't know better. So it was my first job, pretty much out of high school other than like part-time, little jobs. And, it was a lot of fun. It obviously it taught me everything from the dental field itself and, actually holding a job and being responsible and everything there is, that's behind that. So it was a busy job. It was a lot. Yeah. It was fast. So as, somebody that's, thinking about that now, I think I'd probably cry. I'd be too tired. But, back then, it was great.
We had energy back then.
And so it was great. I was moving. I was turning over rooms and taking x-rays. And I actually went through the whole phase of developing x-rays, going and putting the x-rays to the developer.
In the dark room.
Yeah. So we went through all of that. We went through the whole transition of doing digital x-rays, and so all of that I learned within the, 4 or 5 years that I was there. You learn a lot. You learn things that you definitely know you don't want to do, and you find things that you know that you love. And as much as I loved that position, especially at the time, I mean, even now that's not a super popular position. I mean, not all offices have that. So I wasn't interested in dental assisting. I wasn't good at it. I just wasn't good at it. Did it a few times. I think anybody that's ever worked with me can attest to that. I'm a terrible dental assistant. So, you go and I transitioned.
At least you tried.
I did. Tried. Couple times. Didn't do well. But then I ended up at another practice working the front desk, sole front desk.
Yeah.
And over time, just the practice grew and we moved locations, brought on new team members, brought in new doctors, and that position obviously just evolved into practice management. And then I was there for 20 years. Almost.
I like the people side of this more than the darkroom side of this.
Yes. And that, that's where my strengths are dealing with people and comforting people. And then when you get into that management role, it's like a whole nother scenario. And I think it suited me. I enjoyed it. Definitely.
Yeah, 100% fits your personality. You're the momager. That's awesome where you started to where you're at now. Obviously, you've got to see a wide range of roles. You got to experience that and live through the connection between the front and the back office and all of that sort of stuff. So in your over 20 years of dental practice, what made you decide to specifically focus on private practices and the patient experience?
Well, my whole experience, majority, 90% of my experience was private. So that, that's close to my heart. I worked with DSO for, a total of like 3 or 4 years. I'm trying to remember, towards the end. And so everything that I learned in the beginning and everything that I, helped grow with this practice that I was with for so long, that was private. That was all independent. That was fee for service. And so, it's close to my heart. If there are dentists and practices that want to go the DSO route, that's great. It's not for everybody though. And I want to show private practices or independent dentists that it can be done. If you want the DSO route, then yes, but don't feel like that's what you have to do. It can be done. You can be successful and you can have the practice that you want without going that route. So that's why my focus is private. And obviously the patient experience is everything.
Yep.
Right? I mean, we're in dentistry. Who's our client? Patients.
Right.
So
if there's no patients, there's no business.
There's nothing. Right. There's nothing. So if we're not thinking about the ins and outs of the patient experience from A to Z, things start to fall and, things, you get off track. So that's why those are my big focuses. Yeah.
You grew that practice into a multi-million-dollar practice, right?
Yes.
So you're recognizing in those moments, like, here's what it takes to get there. Tell us how you made the jump and decided, like, okay, I'm leaving this practice and I'm going to go start my own business.
Well, it's not an easy decision. I mean, there were a lot of things that, go behind making the decision. I was incredibly happy. I loved, obviously, if I was there for that long, I loved my practice. The patient relationships that I had were so important to me. So it wasn't a decision where it was like I woke up one day and said, okay, I'm going to try something new. It took years for me to kind of decide, well, are you going to stay in this practice for another 20 years or are you going to do the same for other practices? Do you want to go out and help other practices do the same that you've done here? And, at the end of the day, that was part of my decision was, I've done everything I can here. It's time for me to give it to, another practice, another doctor who needs it. And it definitely was a very, very hard decision and, departure. But I think that it was the best for me and best for, moving forward. Definitely.
So you basically spent 20 plus years in one practice. You helped grow them, make them a success. You've harnessed your skills and your knowledge. And you've really refined what you did by way of putting it into play in this dental practice. Right. And then now you're out there in the wild with your own consulting firm, working with these private practices and these dentists. Tell us a little bit about who your ideal client is. Aside from just private practice, what does that look like on your side?
Sure. Going into this, you think that you go through this thought process of, I know it all, I've seen it all, I can tackle all, dentists are dentists. What was I think? That's definitely not the case. And I think we all know, I mean, every practice is so different. So
different.
Until you get out there and start talking to people and learning about, their processes and what they're doing in their practices, it takes a while to kind of even figure out, okay, I definitely don't want to, focus on this. I want to focus more on this. And for me, a practice owner that knows their dentistry, they really enjoy dentistry. They enjoy doing clinical. They enjoy seeing their patients and they want to foster these patient relationships and they want to focus on that. But they're not afraid to say, I have no idea how to run the business. Yeah. That's my ideal. That is my ideal client. The ones that are not afraid to open up and be vulnerable and say, I can treat and diagnose and do amazing dentistry, but at the end of the day, I have no idea how to work with my team. I don't know how
Yeah.
to manage the business. I don't know anything about my cash flow or anything that goes on outside of my operatory. And
Yeah.
those are the people that I want to come in and help,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
whether it's an established doctor that's bringing on an associate that wants to, buy in, or
Mhm.
a doctor who just recently purchased a practice. Maybe they've been practicing for 20 years, but they just purchased their own.
Right.
And they're like, I
Yeah.
have no
Someone
idea.
else was running all this before. Now I need to make sure it gets done. What do I
Yeah,
do? Yeah.
yeah, and that's exactly right. Though
Okay.
that's who I love to help and work with, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. What has surprised you the most going into these other practices where you're like, wow, what's the
I
thing?
I am I feel bad almost saying this, Alicia, but I'm actually surprised that more dentists don't know and aren't paying attention to their numbers. I know that is, that's common in a way,
Mhm.
but to the extent that I've been seeing, that was a little shocking to me. In my head, I worked with a doctor who was very hands-on and
Mhm.
very knows all the KPIs, knows where we're going, has a plan, has a
Yeah.
goal.
Has a
We
goal.
worked hand in hand together on that. So
Yeah.
in my brain, I'm thinking most practices
Mhm.
probably have the same kind of thing happening, right? They have, whether it's
Surprise. They
surprise is right.
don't.
Not a one. I mean, I mean, maybe just a little bit, but that part was a little surprising where it was,
Yeah.
well, are you looking at your reports at the end of the day? Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I run the end of the day. Sometimes I check my
Yeah.
deposits, and that to
Yep.
me, I think, was a surprise because in my head,
Yep.
that's kind of like a no-brainer,
The default
and
mode. Yep.
I shouldn't assume. If
Right.
they haven't been taught, nobody's shown them before, why would they be doing it?
Right.
That's a shock.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say that probably should be your ideal client. So if you're listening to this podcast and
Yeah.
you don't even know where to start with what report and what numbers to look at, you need to contact Laura.
Yes. Let's chat it
Yeah.
out. Yes, absolutely.
Don't be embarrassed. It's not, nobody teaches you
no.
this in dental school. It's okay, but it's time to learn it.
And that's exactly right. And that's why I said,
Yeah.
being open to it and, not being afraid to say, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's no shame in that. How are you supposed to know if you've never
Right.
looked at these numbers? Nobody's ever shown you these numbers. Nobody's ever talked to you about the business side of it. That's not your fault. That's just
Right.
the nature of dental school, right? Which we all
Yep.
know. Right.
Yep. So, question for you in mastering the patient experience. So, to pivot back to that, a lot of dentists think the patient experience just means like they have a nice waiting room and somebody greets the patient when they walk in. So, why is that definition way too small? So, tell us what your view of that is.
The patient experience, I mean, it starts from the thought of, hey, I need to find a dentist and
Mhm.
putting it in ChatGPT or Google or wherever
Right.
it is. It starts there and it never ends. I mean, it doesn't end.
Mhm.
It doesn't end when they leave. It
Right.
continues because whether, you're doing follow-ups or, the recare follow-ups or, whatever it is, it doesn't
Mhm.
ever end. That experience is ongoing as
Right.
long as you're a patient. And, not only, the aesthetics of the office is wonderful. And yes, I mean, when the patient walks in, you want them to be greeted, of course, and you want the office to feel warm and welcoming and clean and, but I
Please don't do the clipboard sign in here thing.
Which,
Let's
okay.
not do that.
You mentioned that. What surprises me? Yeah, I mean, it still happens. People, still have clipboards or, here's the
Mhm.
new patient paperwork on paper. And,
Mhm.
it's time to move past that. But one of the things that, again, was, I think maybe shocking is, or maybe not shocking, but doctors, hygienists, anybody that's working in the back is focused on their clinical,
Yeah.
how fast how fast did I get that crown done? How perfect
Right.
was my margin? Look how much tartar and calculus that I got off the teeth. Like, those are important. I'm not saying they are not important, but
Right.
your patients, your
They don't see
patients are
it.
like, okay, were you on time for my appointment? Was I
Mm-hmm.
comfortable? Did you take care of me? Did you make sure I was
Yeah.
okay? Like, that is what the patient's thinking about. They're not thinking about, oh man, you got that speck of, tartar, on 31
Right.
distal. Like
That I
and
never saw anyway. I didn't even know it existed, but you got it.
right,
Yeah.
right. And that's where I see a lot of the focus is, and again, I'll reiterate, like, that is important. You're doing the job and you're doing a fantastic job. You're doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to step back and think about, what the patient is feeling or what the patient is
Yeah.
thinking, or when they're laying back in the chair, what do they see up on the ceiling, or
Yeah.
so every part of it from, how do they find you? How do they make an appointment? How were they treated? How efficient was everything? Were they seen on time? Did you answer their questions? Did you rush them?
Right. Did you
Every
know their name?
Yeah. Did you know their name, or did you go out and call the wrong person? Or and those things happen. Nothing's
Yeah.
perfect, and those things are going to happen. But it's just making sure that you don't forget and neglect those things, and focus on technology. Like, yes, I have all the technology in the world. I have every possible, machine and laser and all the things that every, tech advanced practice needs or has.
Dream office.
Dream office. And that's great. But in conjunction with everything else that, revolves around the patient is what's important. Have those things, have those amazing pieces, but you still can't forget about the reason that the patients are coming to see you in the first place.
Yep. So I know we've talked about this offline a lot before, but would you say that the thing that made you, or the practice that you worked with, the most successful was focusing on that patient experience and the journey full circle?
100%. Yes.
Not recall, not unscheduled treatment, following up on claims, but the actual patient experience.
Well, all of those things all are part of it, so it's everything. It's all of it, it is including the follow-ups, for example, you have a patient that had maybe a tough appointment. Maybe they just were really uncomfortable, or they were anxious, or it just wasn't a good experience for them.
Yeah.
Did anybody follow up with them after they left?
Yeah.
Did the doctor, hygienist, manager, anybody get on the phone and just reach out and say, hey, I know your appointment, we had a tough appointment. I wanted to check in with you, see how you're feeling. I mean, all of those little points are so important. And it's not to say that you don't want to neglect all those other things, but
sure,
they
of course,
have to be hand in hand. You could have a great patient experience and have a dirty office, and they're not gonna like that either. So
that's true. Very true.
You have to have the whole package. And to answer your question, well, the practice that I was with for 20 years, that was our focus, was the relationships that we had with the patients, remembering small details, about their family, about their dental history, about whatever it is, and taking the time with them, and not being, oh, I got to go do this, and I'm going to do this crown in 30, 45 minutes, and trying to be quick. But everything else had to stay in place while we focused on that.
I think you make a really valid point, like calling on unpaid claims, all of the, like, cleaning the room, sterilization, how quickly are we moving? That's like baseline in running a dental practice. That's the day-to-day job. That's not what sets you apart. Some people do a better job at the day-to-day job than others, obviously. Yeah. But that's not the thing the patient notices, and that's not what sets you apart in delivering that patient experience.
Exactly.
And if I were going to recommend an office, am I going to go, yeah, they do the job? Or I'm going to go, oh my gosh, I love my dental office. You have to go see them because of how they made me feel.
Yeah.
versus me just knowing they check the boxes, right?
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. They had that cool thing that we saw. They had that cool whitening product or I'm like, what? They don't,
Right.
no, it's
They have that
exactly
new
like
AI thing. Patients don't
Yes.
care about that.
Yes. I mean, you'll have some that will be like, ooh, that's exciting. How cool. But that's
Sounds
not
neat.
why they're there. They
Exactly.
didn't come to you because you have that. They came to you because somebody said, I
Yep.
love my dentist. My dentist is
Right.
amazing. My dentist remembers everything about me and they make me feel so, welcome when I come in. That's to see you.
Yep. 100%. They know me there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
People love to be known. So I have another question. What technology do you believe improves that patient experience? You mentioned like online forms. What else do you have on your list?
I would say, I know AI is the movement right now. AI is everywhere. And I definitely think there's a place for AI. I don't think that everything should be automatic, AI generated all the time. I think that having a website where you can actually schedule an appointment online is really important. And, again, that's something that I thought maybe not every practice. I assumed every practice would have, but the majority at this point would have that option. And I don't think that's the majority, at least from what I'm seeing.
No, there's a lot of practices that don't even have websites yet, Laura.
Right. You're right. You are right, Alicia. You're right. Alicia, we're both mothers and, we're both working mothers. I tell you what, when I make my appointments, it's at 11:30 at night when I'm sitting in bed.
Preach. Exactly.
It's not, it's not 12 o'clock, in the afternoon where I can wait for somebody to call me back.
Yes.
It needs to be easy for me. And it needs to be, if I need to find a new doctor and I get on their website and, this is probably terrible, but I'm sure a lot of people do this. But if I don't have the option of making that appointment right then and there, I'm probably going to just keep going unless there was some amazing reason that I needed to see this doctor. But
I'm operating late at night when I have time to think about the stuff that's not everything else.
Right.
And I'm going, man, we really need to get our appointments booked. Let me get online.
Right.
Yeah. Technology. So they need a website. They need online scheduling. They need online forms. What else do you think really enhances that patient experience from a technology standpoint? Because I think a lot of offices, to your point, they're like, ooh, AI this and that, and all those tools are great for their internal efficiency. Yeah. But as far as like how it impacts the patient experience outside of them showing up and being more ready, what tools touch the patient that you think they need that we didn't talk about yet?
Anything that is easy for the patient. If somebody had the option between, okay, I got to get an email and print out my new patient forms and fill out the forms with my, pen and paper, and then somehow scan them back and email them back, or maybe I'll bring them to the appointment, but maybe I'll forget. I don't know. Then I got to do them again. Or, hey, it's right here on my phone. Let me just do this while I'm sitting here, in bed at night, and it's already automatically there. So I think that's very, very important because, again, it's the convenience factor that patients are going to look for. Yeah,
for sure. So to that point, of all the things we've talked about so far, in your management of that multi-million-dollar practice, what was the differentiator between, that practice just being good and that practice being excellent? If you could pinpoint one thing.
I really think that it was the relationships that we had. I really do. I mean, all of the, we had all of those wonderful things, and, the technology and the forms, same day crowns, all of those great things. But if they don't, again, if the patient doesn't feel like they're important or that you care, I really, really, and that's why the patient experience is so important to me, because I feel like every relationship, every person that I had met in those, 20 years, generations of families.
Right.
How was your birthday? How was your trip? Like, it makes a difference. I still have patients that will like message me on social media and be like, I was at the office and I'm so sad that I didn't see you, because you actually become friends with these people, connect with them. And I think that makes all the difference. If I had to take one thing and pick one thing, that's it. That's it. It's how you made the patient feel in the practice, the attention that you gave them, and just being, being efficient in every way. I would say that's my number one.
Number one.
It is.
I agree with you. What's the mistake that you see, like a well-meaning practice, and they're like, we're going to kick things up a notch. We're going to improve the patient experience. What mistake do they make and they don't even know they're making it?
Marketing. Spending so much on the marketing. The question that I hear all the time is, I need more new patients. I need more new patients. Why are we not getting more, what do I need to do to get more new patients? My new patients are low. How much money should I be spending on marketing? And again, there's a place for that. There's a time and a place, and marketing is important, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have your stuff together. If your stuff isn't together in the office, then you're wasting your money. So that I feel like I hear every single day. Help me get new patients. Help me bring in more new patients.
Yeah.
And I've had to say, to people in the past, like, we can talk about this. We can address this. We can definitely make this a focus. But I'm telling you right now that you are going to be throwing your money out the window because you don't even have anybody at the front desk.
Wow.
Why are you paying for people to be calling and making appointments when you don't have anybody at the front desk? Or you don't have, you don't have anything in the office ready to go.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest things that I see is that the focus gets skewed on bringing all these people in. And then they also forget that that's fine. You can get them in, but are they coming back?
Are they coming back? Right. A lot of offices miss the fact that you will get more new patients in by taking care of your existing patients better.
Yes.
Because people like to share what's good. When I go to a bakery and I had a new pastry and it was the best thing I ever ate, I'm going to tell everybody, oh my God, have you been there? Did you try that thing? There's a bakery down the road. I'm thinking about it right now.
Yeah, when I come out there, I expect to get that because I love
You're going with me. I have to have you try it because it was so good. People want to share what's exciting to them and what's good to them and something that made them feel some kind of good way.
Right.
And so if I have a spectacular practice I go to, I'm telling all my friends who are local, if they're like, I need a new dentist, go to mine because I'm proud of mine. I'm excited by mine. I know they're taken care of if they go to mine,
Right.
And those will be the patients who trust you. They're willing to spend the money at your practice. When you say, I'm sorry, you need a crown, they're going to listen to you because they know you care about their well-being and their outcome. You don't just care about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I think the profits will come if you're doing the right thing, if you're taking care of people.
Yeah.
Which is why I think you were so smart in focusing on delivering that patient experience.
Yeah.
Because,
you mentioned something that's also important too, that a lot of the times doctors will say, we're attracting the wrong types of patients. And you nailed it. The best patients that you're going to get are your referrals. Are from patients that are already part of your practice, patients that already know you, can vouch for you, and can say, I had a really great experience. Those are your good patients. Those are the patients that that you're looking for and that you want. So you kind of nailed it when you mentioned that, because that's it all comes full circle.
Yeah. And going back to your point, if they're spending money on marketing, like let's say they're putting out a mailer And on the mailer, it's like $29 cleaning for your first visit, and we give you an Amazon gift card. And you show up to that practice, and there's a huge line of people waiting in the waiting room to be seen because they've just scooped up all these patients. They're just there one and done. They're getting their gift card. They're getting their $29. There's no loyalty. You can't buy loyalty.
You got $30. You got
right.
Right.
Yeah, right. And like, how is that helping your practice? You spent so much money to acquire that new patient that is probably never coming back again.
Never. You're right. You're right. That's absolutely.
Unless you can deliver on the patient experience on the back end.
Yeah. I mean, you can wow them. You definitely can. But you're right. If you're forcing that, a $29 cleaning, Amazon gift card, all those things, and that's your focus, and you forget everything else. Yeah, it's a waste. It's definitely a waste.
Okay, so what are the signs, the early warning signs that a practice, their experience is starting to slip? What should a practice be conscious of and be looking at to go, we really need to tighten this up?
Yeah, sure. So there's the obvious things like you've had a drop in reviews, or, if you get a negative review. I mean, those are kind of the obvious things. Other obvious things are drop in production or more holes in the schedule. I feel like those, again, those are kind of, the things that are going to be right in your face. Yeah. The things that, a lot of the time doctors, dentists, office managers even aren't really paying attention to are the patients that have been with you for a really long time, and then all of a sudden they disappeared and you haven't seen them. Yeah. So that, I think, is something, if you're not doing your recall, staying on top of these things, all of a sudden you'll start to notice it's not just one family that left. It's not just two. Now all of a sudden you've had 10, 15, 20 of these patients that have been with you for years, and all of a sudden they haven't been coming in.
Oh, girl, you're stressing me out just saying it.
Sorry, but that's the truth.
True.
And I've seen it. I've seen it happen, and it's going to happen. Right. I mean, it obviously it's going to happen.
Yeah, but it should be onesie twosie, not in bulk.
And if you're not, because they're not necessarily going to call you and just say, hey, I'm leaving. I'm mad. I want my x-rays. I'm going somewhere else. Well, I mean, you'll get a couple, and probably more than you even want, to be honest.
If you're lucky, they'll call and tell you. Right.
But it's the ones that are silently unhappy, silently noticing.
The quiet quitting.
Yes. Yeah. Because somebody rubbed them the wrong way, or they've started to notice, the quality of care has started to drift or started to, decline. And they don't want to make you feel bad, or they don't want to, cause a scene or leave a review, because that's not the type of person they are. They're just not going to come back. They're just going to make their exit quietly. So I think that is huge. That is something that should be paid attention to, consistently. Definitely. That's your warning sign.
Especially if you always pre-book their 6 month, and when they're leaving, they're like, no, I'll call you. Danger, danger.
Yeah. Oh, like, okay, I'll actually call you tomorrow. Let me call you tomorrow to find out why you said you're going to call me tomorrow, because I need to know.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us, Laura, what happens when a practice relies on like the one or two really great team members who are basically delivering that patient experience instead of setting up a trained system of accountability for the whole team?
Well, I'll say there's two things that I'll say about that. If you have your two rock stars and the rest of the team is maybe not. Yeah, right. They're a little, what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Two things. What if one of them leaves?
Right.
What if one of them or both of them are out sick? Or what if they're just not there? I mean, you can't rely on those people to be there 24 hours, or 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Right.
They're going to get sick. They're going to have things to do. And so then you have a gap, and you have, a day or two or a week or 2 weeks that things kind of start to, fail and, things get missed. And because that one person or two
Right.
people were gone. I think another part of it is you might have these one or two great team members, and if the rest of the team isn't behind them, and you as the dentist or the manager aren't supporting these other team members like you are supporting these rock stars, that's going to bring in that toxicity, bring in that negativity, and your patients are going to feel it. They are absolutely going to know when your assistant is mad at your receptionist or your hygienist is mad at the doctor. Like, they know. They know. They can feel it. They can feel it when they walk in. They can feel it in the interactions. And so if you have those team members that you're like, oh, these guys are amazing. These guys are amazing. They do an amazing job all the time. And you're kind of neglecting these other ones and you're not supporting them in the same way. You're going to get that kind of that negative energy in the office that patients see. Yeah.
That's so true. When you said that, I thought back to a time where we were trying to hit production goals because that led to collection goals, of course. And it was one of those, we have this 40-minute opening and it's not quite enough time to get a crown done, but it's too much time to just drop a single filling in. It's the end of the month.
Let's get it in
Am
there.
I going to book some? What do I book in that? And the assistant was so mad at me. I booked a crown in that spot. And I was like, listen, they're leaving out of town. The patient was really wanting to get it done early. I know it's not exactly ideal.
It's not ideal.
But we can push it, we can get it in. But she was so mad at me that when that patient showed up and got seen and was leaving, the patient thought that the assistant was mad at her. And I was like, don't worry about it at all. They're having a tough day. It's not you, I promise. And that patient was really reluctant to come back because they felt it because of that decision I made. And I owned it and the doctor supported it. But to your point, it created this issue where the whole vibe was off for like a whole week.
Oh,
and
no. Oh, no.
It's terrible.
Well, and we could go into a whole rabbit hole digging into that because it wasn't your decision that was the problem. It was how they reacted to that decision is what the problem was. So like I said, we could talk about that for like a whole nother, podcast. But you're right. The fact that the patient felt it. Personally, I wouldn't want to come back. I would feel awkward. And, as a patient, I would be like, okay. Oops, they got me in a minute. They were pissy the whole time. They were short the whole time. They weren't welcoming. That didn't feel good. I don't want to come back. Yeah.
Right. I know she was just grumpy that day, but she let it bleed all over onto the patient. And it was a long-standing patient. They loved us. But then after that, it was kind of like, do I really want to come? I'm not sure. Like, the vibe was off, all of that.
Well, it only takes one time. I mean, that stinks. That really, really stinks to say, but
Yep. It does.
Depending on the person, they may give you another chance. They may be like, oh, this was a one-off. I've been here forever, but some of them are like, I don't need this.
Right.
I don't need this. You're going to
enough drama at my own job. I don't need to come to yours and have drama.
Exactly. Like, these patients don't enjoy coming to the dentist as it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they tell you every day.
Decide to show up. Right. Exactly.
They tell you every day, this is my least favorite place to be. Like, okay, thank you. Yeah. Happy to see you too.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people look at dental different than medical. Even still, there's a lot of people who don't want to go to the physician and have their annual checkup, and they shy away from that. But more so the dental office. And it's not viewed in the same light of necessity as the medical practitioners. Yes. And so patients really have to feel welcomed and invited in order to keep them coming back to your practice. Yes. They might go get dental care somewhere at some point, but if you want them to show up to yours, you have to make them feel special. Yeah, exactly. And cared
That's
for,
right.
to your point earlier.
Yeah.
So if a practice owner listening today wanted to start improving their patient experience this week, like jump on it, what should they actually focus on?
I think paying attention to the communication in the office. And that means between each touch point in the office, like
Yeah.
between all the team members, doctor to hygienist, assistant to doctor, the assistant to front desk,
Yeah.
that part of it, as well as the communication with the patient. So in both aspects, communication just as a whole, because if you're not, if you're not communicating with the patient that, let's say, you're running late, or you are running late and you rush up and you just drop off the information at the front desk, but you don't communicate to the front desk well enough, or you don't communicate to the patient well enough. And then you're like, all right, see you later. I got to go to my next patient.
Yeah.
And they're left looking at, the receptionist or the front, whoever's at the front is looking at the patient. They're looking at each other thinking,
Right.
Well,
now what?
Right. What do you need another appointment? Should I schedule you for something? And that happens. I feel that I see that happens a lot. So I think just focusing on communication in every touch point, whether it's with your team, whether it's with the patient, any form, any piece of communication needs to be like on point. I think that makes a huge.
Yeah, look at it for sure, because that's a really good point. If I'm getting walked back to a room and the assistant taking me back just says, Alicia, this way, you're in room 2. And just, and then I'm like, where do I put my purse? I have stuff in my hand. Should I set this down? Just really pay attention to each of those interactions, the micro interactions. I think you're right.
I think I've talked about this before, where, it starts from when, the patient comes in, have they been, greeted, or were they like, all right, have a seat, or were they welcomed? Did when the provider came up to get the patient, was it like, hey, is so-and-so ready? Or, hi, it's nice to see you again. Come on back. Like, let's, my name is, so-and-so if we've never met, those types of things. Or I'm going to be taking care of you today. I'm going to be doing the x-rays. And then the doctor will come in and talk to you about what he sees on the x-rays. Those types of things where you're doing it all day, every day. So it feels redundant in your head.
Right.
But it makes a difference to that one person, because if you're just like you said, Alicia, you're dropping them off and you're like, okay, I gotta go turn over a room, and I have instruments, and the patient's standing there like, should I sit? Is the doctor coming? Like, was I supposed to follow you?
Right. Yes. I hate being that person where I'm like, what do I do now?
Yes.
I have another quick story for you.
I love a story. Good.
So when I was like 8 years old, I went to the dentist, of course. And
child trauma. Here it comes.
My child trauma. I had my hygiene appointment, and they gave me the cup of fluoride. They were like, here you go. Just swish that. And so I swished it. They left the room, and they didn't tell me I needed to spit it out.
Oh, no.
I'm sitting there like, what do I do? At what point? Like, what's the decision here? And I had no idea,
Right.
and I ended up swallowing it because I didn't know.
Well, you don't know.
And they were like, I could totally tell they felt so bad about it. And that made a difference that they felt bad about it. And, and I could see they felt bad. Even being a kid, like, I was like, oh, it's okay, because we're people pleasers and all of that. They were like, you might have a little tummy ache later today.
You're gonna have a massive blowout when you go home, kid. Like,
right. Everything's fine though, right? They're like, yeah, it's okay. You're gonna be all right, and like, it's totally fine. You just might have a little tummy ache. But they felt so bad. But it was that I'm that person. I don't know what to do if you're not. Like, at some point, obviously, you've done it enough times, but Don't leave me there in your space expecting me to know what to do in your space. This is yours. I'm just a guest here, you know?
You're a guest. So, exactly. You were 8 years old, you were a kid, but it happens with adults too. I mean, some patients are only coming in every couple of years, so they don't remember how x-rays go. Like,
and maybe their other dentists did it totally different.
Correct. Exactly. That's also very true. That's very true. So it doesn't matter how old you are. Just like you said, you're the guest or they're the guest. And just because you are in the mode of doing the same things over and over. So you just think, okay, well, they know what to expect next. No, they don't.
Yep. Right.
They may see you 2 or 3 times a year if you're lucky.
Exactly. So I think that's a really good lesson to take away is if you treat every patient like you're the host of this party and it's their first time at your house, what does that experience look like? And keep that up every time they come in.
I agree. That's a great story. Oof.
Luckily, I did not have a stomach ache later, so thank God for that. But it was like the embarrassment of not knowing what to do that was the worst part for me. Yeah. And just having to make a decision because nobody told me what to do. Yeah. So I was like, did I do the right thing? I don't know.
Right. Am I supposed to just, I don't know. You're sitting, no, I probably would have sat there with it in my mouth, letting it like drool down my lip. Like, they're going to come back, right? I think they're coming back.
Yep. Exactly. So I know obviously at this point of 20 plus years in practice, you've seen everything from like the front desk bottlenecks to the back office conflict and everything in between. So what are the most common operational things or problems that you see today in a dental practice?
Sure. They're the most common. I would for sure would say patient follow-up. I think that I have like 10 things in my head. So I'm trying to get them all like, okay, well, let's see. What are the most important? I would say patient follow-up. After the patient leaves, I'll give you an example.
Checking in with them. Yeah.
Well, and especially if you're a general dentist, let's say, and you refer a patient for root canal. You don't do root canals in your practice. You have a specialist that you love. You refer out.
Yep.
So that patient's gone. That patient has not made another appointment in your office. They've officially been referred out.
Right.
Now what?
Right.
Has anybody called this patient? Has anybody called the specialist? Does anybody in your practice have any idea what the status is on that patient since they left? Because so many things could have happened. They could have decided to go somewhere else. They could have decided that I don't need this root canal. I'm not doing it at all. They may have already seen the root canal specialist, and now they're waiting for you to call them for their next appointment after the root canal. So I think that is so big, so important is paying attention to all of those. You have your unscheduled treatment that I think, everybody focuses on, right? Like we diagnose treatment, they didn't schedule, let's follow up. But I feel like this is one of those opportunities where a lot of practices think, okay, well, we did our part. The patient was referred out. We're going to just wait and see what happens. Well, I think there needs to be some sort of organization there where it's like, okay, after a week, call the specialist and find out, did they make an appointment? When's their appointment? Do they have it done? Great. Can I get the report? Are they ready to be seen here again? And go through that because, same thing with ortho. You have a patient that goes out to ortho and maybe you want them to be coming in more frequently once they get their ortho on, Yeah. Do you think the orthodontist they might be telling you, might be telling the patient, but it's your responsibility to be following up with them and saying like, you still need to come in and stay on top of your cleanings or whatever it is. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I see in most practices, that it's just, okay, they've been referred out. See you for your cleaning, and that's
close the loop, people. Close the loop.
Close the loop. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's super important in any business.
Any business.
You can apply that to anything. So,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
okay, I have another question for you.
Yep.
Which let's see. No, I'm gonna ask you something else.
Oh, geez. You're going to stump me?
Okay, Laura.
Oh, Alicia.
Can you share a memorable transformation where just a few operational changes or improvements dramatically improved a practice? Do you have any examples of just like, oh, these 2 tweaks and wow, suddenly things are like turned around?
The patient handoff. There was a practice that I was working with where the office was beautiful. The technology is great. The doctor is friendly, a great clinician. The hygienists are fantastic. The assistants are bubbly and friendly and all of these wonderful things. The front desk was amazing. All of these wonderful things were here. But for whatever reason, the handoff was obsolete. The doctor would run up and drop a route slip off, or maybe they would drop a route slip off, and they would just and kind of like what I mentioned before, where they would just kind of look at each other and say, well, what's happening?
What's next?
What need an appointment? Right. Or the same thing with like hygiene. The hygienist would take their patient, move it to the doctor's operatory for an exam, and there would be no handoff. And either the doctor doesn't know like that the patient is waiting, or the patient isn't even aware of what's happening. We had a whole we did a skit in the office, which actually was hilarious. I wish I recorded it. We did like a role-playing skit of what a good handoff and a bad handoff looked like. And the light bulbs that went off for everybody was amazing. And
we'll be reenacting that in the next podcast.
We should, because it was, I wish I should have recorded it, Alicia, because it was great. I mean, it was a dramatization to the extreme, but that was the point. That was the whole idea. And the hygienists both looked at me and looked at each other, and they were laughing. They were like, yeah, we do that. And same thing with the assistants and the doctors. Doctors, yeah, I do that too. And after that, it's like this, like clockwork. They are on the money doing that handoff, from the front to the back, to the back to the front, to hygiene, to doctor, to whatever it is.
Yeah.
It made a tremendous difference. And it's small. Yeah. Definitely a small difference. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yep. Yeah. Just that one thing I could definitely see having a huge impact for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. So if someone listening today feels stuck in their practice, final thoughts? What's the first thing they should do tomorrow morning?
Call me, for sure. I think that's
yes.
Call me, text me, email me, whatever. No, I think, just getting, a full view of the flow of the practice, standing back and observing everything, just take one day and pay attention to what's happening. Listen, I think a lot of us get into the daily grind and we know what we need to do and probably amazing at it. And, we come in and we rock and roll every day, but we're not necessarily listening to other things that are happening. So my suggestion to a practice owner would be like, when you're done with your patient, walk around a little bit. Just walk around. Just observe some of the interactions that are going on with the patients, the interactions that are going on, between team members. Like, you don't have to make it creepy and be a micromanager. Like, it doesn't have to be like that, but
don't be creepy.
But please don't be. There was a whole thing about that, I swear, on social media about dentists being creepy, and we're not. We don't need to do that. Like, you just need to be aware. It's about being aware. I think that a lot of us like to just go into our office and start to decompress after a patient, right? And turn our ears off and turn our brains off. But those are the opportunities that you're missing. You may miss, somebody presenting treatment and they're
Right.
not doing it the way that you would like them to, or maybe they're misspeaking and they're explaining treatment incorrectly,
Yeah.
or they aren't 100% sure what the finances are because you guys haven't really talked about it. If you're
Right.
just going into your office and ignoring those things, you have no idea that it's even an issue.
Right.
So
Yep.
that's what
100%.
I would suggest, just sitting back, observing, listening for a day, and just kind of getting an idea of what's happening in the practice.
I think that's great advice. And to your point, maybe the person presenting treatment doesn't even know why you need the treatment. And
Correct.
how are they going to communicate and reinforce maybe what they were told, maybe what they weren't told,
Correct.
if they don't know. So, yeah, I think step one is become aware.
Become aware. Self-awareness in every, personal, professional. I mean, self-awareness is huge. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. Okay, so tell everybody, where can they learn more about LW Excellence?
Yes. Well, the website is lwdentalexcellence.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Laura Weber. On LinkedIn, I'm always posting, little tidbits, checklists, things like that on there.
I love your tip sheet. Those are great.
Thank you. I even my son, he always tells me, he's like, Mom, I love your tips and tricks, because I always have a trick or a tip of some sort. So maybe that's my thing. But
do more.
Do more. I'll do more. And then email me, Laura Weber at lwdentalexcellence.com. I'm here.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put that links and everything in the summary of the podcast as well.
Thank you.
And make sure everyone knows where to find you.
Yes.
And so you folks heard it here. Is there anything else, Laura, that you want to share with the group that we haven't touched on yet?
I feel like some private practices feel that they don't have the option to stay private, that they can't be successful, they can't have the practice that they've always dreamed of without, going corporate. And I think that, if you sit down and you decide what your goals are, decide what your priorities are, and you make those things your focus, you can be successful. You can have the dream practice, the dream, life that you want, as long as you have a clear vision of what you're looking for. And everything is about the patient.
I agree. I think patients are hungry for the private practice experience.
They are.
But they enjoy the corporate structure because it feels like somebody has a plan and someone's running it. So if you can blend the two.
Oh, yeah. If you don't have a manager, get a manager, because you can't do it all yourself, and you shouldn't have to, and I think that having a solid manager that will support the practice, support the doctors, support the owner, support the team, for crying out loud.
Yep.
I think that is gold in itself. I think it's like, forget gold, it's diamonds, princesses,
diamonds,
queens.
That's awesome. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your gifts with the dental community. And we appreciate you being on Behind the Practice. Until next time.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.